Hello, family. Welcome back to the Explore the Extraordinary podcast. My name's Betty, and today I'm joined by Beach. And Beach is a near-death experiencer. He's an interdimensional space traveler. He's also an author. He just wrote a book, From Insanity to Infinity. I'm super excited to have him on our podcast and introduce him to our community at IONS. And so I'm going to toss it right over to you, Beach, to get started.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I just want to thank Betty for allowing me in this. I mean, I know I'm on her frequency, and I'm honored to be on that frequency because I'm like, I need a teacher. and you know, when I started putting that out there, I need a teacher, I need a teacher, you know, I feel like we live in a matrix. You know, I believe in this simulation theories. I'm an ex-nuclear engineer. I was on submarines. Yeah, and I was a preacher on the submarine. But also, I've also experienced being a homeless, drug addicted, mentally ill, meth addict, you name it. Been there, done that. I've been through 12 steps constantly for every single thing. And, you know, it seems like it's a shell. It's like me breaking through these shells, which, you know, I could go on and on about that. But you know, when I met Betty through YouTube, I immediately was struck with the similarities in our paths. And I write about all this stuff. It was like I wrote about all of this 2 years ago, everything in my book. But my past is very similar to Betty's. So, and then there was a psychic. Her name is Bobby Allison, and she's pretty famous. And she talked to me in like 2007, and she, you know, she really brought me to start understanding that a lot of what I had experienced as a child, there might be relevancy and truth to it, or not relevancy, but it is real, you know? So I feel like I'm in this fourth dimension. I feel like I'm struggling in some ways because I haven't totally, you know, I'm human. That's something that I'm learning too. You're human. Stop trying to act like you're some kind of God, you know? So I'm humble is what I am. I've become humble. I've become willing to come to God or come to consciousness, Christ consciousness. And I have been to Jerusalem, and I'm telling you, it's real. I have been there. I got to kiss the slab where he lay, and, you know, and some, you know, some miraculous things have come of it. Like my stepfather, he's a Cherokee warrior, Vietnam vet. Every time I come to see him and bring spirit with me, he stops drinking. So I'm like, there's something to this, of course. So, you know, and I'm not saying it's me, it's what's coming through me because I'm allowing it in me and through me. And so it's been such a struggle for me because, you know, my idea of, well, I have always known that I should be spiritual. And I grew up in this environment of serious celebrities. I still run into celebrities. I'm on their frequency, for God's sake. Tim McGraw, he and I have a very similar story. Our dads played baseball together on the New York Mets. And I went to see him when he was playing in Tulsa, Oklahoma, way back. But I walked in and he was standing on the stage, and I was writing music. I am a published songwriter, two songs. But anyway, he threw this balsa wood airplane and it made this huge circle and came down and landed right in my hand. So I have stuff like that has happened to me my whole life. And it's like, even this, I was like, what am I going to say? I feel like I'm in a teacher's presence, when it comes to you, I really do. So, I mean, I was like, last night, I was like trying to write all this stuff. And then I looked I saw Brie Lafferty, I think it was. Brie Lafferty. And I was like, oh, let's watch this. I need to see this. So she was talking about the first time she ever came on a podcast. This is the first time, no, second time. So I'm so excited. Anyway, Dunning-Kruger. I'm supposed to write down Dunning-Kruger. That means I'm in the fourth dimension, looking for help, looking for, reaching for, and this tarot reading from Pluto Being popped up right before this. Swear to God, this guy read this for me. And I need some prayer because I do believe in my truth that was meant for me. And prayers, please. I literally, I feel like, why am I talking about me? Or yeah, I should be talking about me. But, and it's weird too, because that reading had that color in it, the throat chakra. And I have always been attracted to that color. And I do know I'm an important voice, but I feel like I've never reached that Kundalini experience. And I really haven't applied myself enough to know exactly what it is. And maybe I don't need to know. But yeah, in near-death experiences, I've had 4 or 5 friends that have had them. I almost died twice, but I didn't have anything, but I don't think I was supposed to. And one time it was from an overdose. And I know that's supposed to can mess up your, I don't know. I'm new at this. But the spiritual path I was on was my grandmother had one. She told me all about it. Then I'm from the AIDS generation. I have HIV. It's all in the book, all my struggles and what I've done. But I've done fantastic things too, which preaches of neuroplasticity. I've got an owl totem. I was told that alone. Well, no, I was told that 10 years ago. I guess that's a long time. But I do have that. So when you see that Pluto being tarot ruling, I was just getting blown away because I'm like, this is literally me. I was crossed by both eclipses. I have a home in Santa Fe. I've also been watching these Greg, let's see, Joseph Selby. I've been watching Joseph Selby and some of his, being a nuclear engineer, I really I'm kind of into string theory, and he talks about brains, like membranes. And I truly think that really resonates with me. So I'm interested in all that stuff, and I'm trying to find, it's Greg, Britt. I cannot remember this guy's name. Anyways, Greg, I believe he lives in Santa Fe. He has a lot of he's right on target every time I've seen him. But I don't know, that's where I am now. Yeah, the book is From Insanity to Infinity, Diary of a Queer Madman. But it is about my growing up, my amazing experiences, my deaths and resurrections, the biggest analogy in the book was I lived in Dominican Republic as a child. I was fascinated with Amber, with the culture there. Lived there on and off because my father was with the New York Mets. And my father and I had an awful relationship, but it's about me coming to terms with that and coming to acceptance about maybe my part in it, as far as I'm finally losing some of that anger that I felt as a child that just stuck with me. And I'm trying to process through all the different things that in people I inhabited, because all of me shattered at one point. And that's why I experienced so many extremely different lives. And so I don't know, I wonder, do you have anything to ask me?
Yes, I do. Thank you for sharing. That was a little all over the place. So we're going to see if we can try to maybe congeal some stuff together.
That
I'm
was
I'm
that
wondering I'm wondering if maybe you would be willing to share in detail about your near-death experience.
Well, okay. The near-death experience for me was trying to commit suicide, both times. And for me, um, all I remember is, first of all, let me go into one of the experiences. I was feeling sorry for myself, feeling like, I mean, I didn't want to go through the consequences of what I involved myself in. And at the same time, I was just blaming everybody else for everything and woe is me. And I do know I'm here for a reason, or for an important purpose. I've always felt that way as a light worker. So anyway, I tried to kill myself with carbon monoxide, and I used my mom has a ranch, and so I used a I used a weed eater, gas powered, and tried to kill myself that way, and I should have died. And I don't know. I don't remember after that point. I just black out, and then I come to, and I should have been dead, but something had turned the gas-powered weed eater off. So that's what happened then. The other time was I overdosed on pills and alcohol, and that near-death experience was pretty similar to that. And it shocked me because I wanted to go and experience what I had heard from my grandmother when she died. She had a heart condition and she fell off the stool and it restarted her heart. But in the meantime, she told me all about the experience. And I was like, why am I here? This sucks. I want to go where Shingle went. But so I think that a lot of times subliminally or whatever made me just want to check out. But I think I was saved for a reason. And I've always felt like I owed a debt once I started awakening, that maybe I owed a debt for being saved over and over to help others in similar circumstances. So here I am.
I love that. Thanks so much. So you talked a little bit before we started recording about the mystical experiences and how they've affected your family, or your family actually having mystical experience as well. And I think that that's something that our audience is really interested in. So please take some space and share about that.
The mystical experiences, well, I do believe that my family is experiencing a lot of generational sin, or has. And in my book, I tied all of it back to my family's unfortunate involvement in slavery, and the terrible karmic debt that filtered down through the generations. And that was like the dehumanization of other people, and then bringing that whole spirit of that with you into your own family. It's like I had a cousin I reconnected with from Paris, Texas, and she was like, where does this horse whipping come from in our family? Men horse whipping their sons. And I was like, she goes, does it come from my other side? I was like, it came from the Beauchamp side. Because I heard stories and stories and experienced a version of it myself. So I know there's physical, but also spiritual, that coming through as well. So the spiritual, mystical nature of it was maybe my realization that it was that, and that I had work to do and still do. And I'm still struggling, really, I am. I've had, mental illness diagnoses, of course, and I've accepted those, but then I think, no, believe in a miracle, stop accepting stuff like that, and stop. Sometimes I think I use it as a crutch, So anyway, but that, yeah, I kind of lost my thought.
That's okay. You're doing great. So maybe we could talk a little bit about that. I love that you're being vulnerable and authentic, and you're sharing about the areas where you're still perceiving a struggle. And I'm wondering, have you been able to bridge the gap between a Western medical diagnosis of some sort of perceived mental illness versus the spiritual experience? How do you differentiate between those experiences for yourself?
Well, it's a journey of theology for me. And I have an associate's in theology, and I learned so much from the University of the South. Besides the fact I was regressed and I told myself, I'm like, yes, it's true. You were a monk. You're a monk. You're a monk over and over again. You were a crone. You were like a witch, but you were always of this spirit, of giving instead of trying to take. At least breathing out instead of constantly in. So, yeah, I mean, and I had those knowings. I even went back I could see all this karmic stuff. And and that's the one thing I wanted to say is when I say that, sometimes I'm embarrassed. But that Bry Lafferty, hi Bry, Brie Lafferty, sorry, it is Brie, correct? Okay, thank you. Anyway, yeah, I feel like her. It's like when she was right at the beginning, she said she had a lot of denial, and I vacillate back and forth. I was in nuclear engineering, theology, studied Shinto, just scratched the surface and thought, oh, that's cool. Then, Buddhism, oh, I really like that one. And then Christ consciousness. And the thing that I think I had to, part of Exodus Outreach, Survivor. Anyway, I have done all this spiritual stuff, but I never could stitch it together. I've done not just spiritual stuff, but these like submarine veteran, prostitute, which I prefer sex worker, but I saw really bad. I mean, I didn't see super bad stuff because, man, if anyone has guardian angels, thank you. Seriously. Yeah. And I don't know. I'm Brie Lafferty right now. I'm like just feel very honored I'm on your frequency.
Beautiful. Yeah, I think that there's a lot of importance that comes with sharing the mystical experiences out loud. So maybe you can share a little bit about what inspired you to write a book about your journey. What are some of the aspects of it that you feel are really important for people to know about?
That I believe everything, that I was coming to the conclusion that everything was a spectrum. And I receive a lot of images. I did, for instance, in the book, I am a clairvoyant, and I did see January 6th, 2 years before it happened. And I'm in the military, or was. So I was up there for a Vote Vets event, and I told the general up there, and it's in the book. His name is General Paul Eaton. I told him that I had foreseen January 6th, and I said, Donald Trump will not leave office. I saw the Capitol burning. Well, one thing I was going to mention is sometimes I feel sucked into the politics and things like that. And I'm kind of like, do I need to be of this world? Should I be a Cassandra? Should I always have somebody come to me afterwards and go, he didn't say that? So that was one reason why I wrote it down, because I want people to, and when you watch that reading from that Pluto being, I was just like, Spirit, tell me what to say here. I'm afraid of right now. I'm like, should I be woo-woo? I feel like, oh, one other thing. Who gets surrounded by a bunch of Buddhists when they move here to Santa Fe? I've got all these Buddhist symbols like all around me, and I have a Buddhist monk living next door that I bring him things. I'm like, I know you're supposed to bring him stuff. So I'm like, I'll bring him little snacks and things like that, and try to be real secretive about it. So, and that's fun. But I have a lot of Buddhists around me with, like, I don't know what that is. Is that like warding off the evil eye? Like,
I'm not familiar with that. So let me ask you this, since coming into spirituality, how has your faith been transformed? In what ways? Like, I hear you talking about being very open-minded to Buddhism. Was that your origin of faith growing up? How has that transformed in your life?
oh my gosh, it was the very idea that I am good enough. I have God within me. Christ is within me. The Christ is my ascended master. And I think that God doesn't care whether you come to him in a jalopy or a Mercedes. And I think Christ is my Mercedes. And I was so fortunate and I know that, my visiting Jerusalem was probably the most powerful experience of my life. And um, and honest to God, I think that talking about it, the Via Dolorosa. Here I am learning Spanish and I can't even say it. Anyway, that was so powerful to me because I can't even get up. I have cried. I do cry. There's nothing wrong with that, of course, but the sacrifice didn't hit me until I guess I was there in the room and remembering that. And just the fact that, I don't know, it was because so many people there were carrying one cross, and I was like, wow, are these people carrying these crosses? He had to do it himself. And he didn't even know the end of the story, or he did know the end of the story, but he knew there was an inflection point, and he took the hard one, but the correct one. So why can I do any less? Or why should I do any less? And I'm so imperfect. I have CPTSD, and I'm like, here you are, you're talking, this spiritual stuff, you're a preacher, but, sex worker, woo, but it's just like, that's the thing. I know that I have God within me, and I am so, for that to be my risen master And for me to experience that, and I experienced it during Orthodox Christmas. Everyone was in everyone was in Bethlehem. So it was like wide open. I got to go to the upper room. I got to my husband and I, and he's a medium, by the way. He is a medium. He has had a near-death experience, and he came back with mediumship abilities. And I am nowhere in that area. I don't really have it. I've seen ghosts, I believe, but in energy, but full body and stuff. But he is. And in fact, another thing, numbers keep coming up for us. And he texted me right before we came on. He texted me 123. I just saw 123 because in Dallas it is 123. And when he texted me, so when I read it, it was let's see, 12:30, right? Two different times, same series of numbers. And I was like, that's just what's been happening. I got in an Uber, and there was like 12 threes across the dashboard and everything. I'm like, this stuff is like, why am I in denial still? And maybe it's because I'm trying to totally surrender and let go. And it's just, and even that reading, when I saw the reading, those readings have really helped me. Because my gosh, he sees exactly at the crossroads that I feel like I'm in. But I do I do know I have protection. But I'm kind of in this hermit energy. Like I'm wanting to just block the world out because my biggest fear is that I am going to react from the rage of my childhood. And I have done that, just exploded. I did it recently. And I am just like, I just want to hide. I'm like, what is this? I mean, I'm supposed to know better. And it's like, okay, you're unhealed. So you still have the trauma, you're gonna have to deal with it. But in the meantime, I'm the hermit. And I think it's okay.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you for your vulnerability again and being honest and authentic. Because I think that a lot of people believe that once you have some kind of spiritually transformative experience or you've faced death and come on the other side, that just it's magic and
Oh
everything
yeah.
works out. But
Woo!
it's not that way. That's what I hear you saying anyway.
Well,
For
it's the
you, that
pink
go ahead.
cloud, the
Yeah.
pink cloud recovery. And I've had it with almost, I go to a 12-step program and I'm like, well, what room am I in? I qualify for everything. Hi, I'm Beach.
Okay. So yeah, maybe can you share a little bit about some of the healing modalities that you have used? I hear you talking about 12-step fellowship. I know that can be a really
Yes,
transformative tool for people. What would you say to somebody who maybe is struggling with the same things that you're talking about, that you're perceiving a struggle with right now as well, sort of like wanting to shut out the world, feeling some childhood wounding,
yes.
the rage, the underlying feeling of injustice within you? What's the kind of advice that you would give to somebody else?
I do believe that we have to be open to really receiving the message of what we are experiencing. Because I did say, okay, I'm in the hermit energy, but honestly, what I mean by that is less hiding and more hiding in what in my book I talk about me being trapped in amber, like the David Attenborough locust that was in Dominican Republic. And I'm writing that from an 8-year-old child's perspective in Dominican Republic. So throughout the book, I talk about these transformations of weaving yourself into a cocoon and then having these transformations occur through spirit and Christ. And then after your 3 days, which to me, that's very relative. And when I was a child, I never could understand it, but I was told I was gifted. I know I am. I know I'm if two standard deviations away from the mean in intelligence means gifted, I am gifted. But that doesn't mean I'm gifted in everything. And I think that's a false, that's just a construct like everything. It's a spectrum. So yeah, I'm getting off target here. Where was I?
That's okay. Everything that's meant to be said is being shared for sure. And I'm really grateful for you and your willingness. And I
Mhm.
think that sometimes it's easier to give other people advice than it is to actually integrate it into our own lives. But
Yes.
directly after your transformative experiences, was your life chaotic? Like when did it start to settle a little bit? And where did the inspiration come to write the book?
The inspiration came from my whole processing of my Major League Baseball player father and myself as a queer young man who I have a lovely soul. I'm happy to say. And I'm extremely empathic and extremely sensitive. And I had this Neanderthal of a father. And, he was just the whole chaos of that and having this, I know it was karmic, but it was just this total chaos. It was family divorces, um, um, split loyalties, physical abuse, major physical abuse. My having personality disorders grow from that. Splitting, not really knowing who I am, and all of this process, all of it being worked through using what I've learned in the 12 steps, all of that being worked through using what I learned in spirituality. And I took it seriously when I was in church, and I remember the Bible verse, knock and it shall be open unto you, seek and ye shall find. Um, Knocking the door shall be open to you, says the Lord. I'm not always perfect at quoting Bible, and that's okay because, one thing I learned in theology is it's the spirit in the book. It's not a literal book of facts. It's what human beings have transposed the best they can and at the time as the word of the Lord, of God, which ties me together with all these other spiritual things, which is I realized, a lot of this is basically agape, brotherly love, all the positive. The one thing that I say I cannot deal with is that it is what it is because it's not. And then also, I really hate that do what thou wilt. I don't like that. That is the exact perversion of the golden rule. And what I've seen in all faiths is the golden rule. That is it. And that is what the 12 steps and my constant, because my last drink was 9/11, 2003. That was my last drink, believe it or not. And I got into all these other addictions though. So can I really say I was sober? I mean, but I never drank. Isn't that weird? But I don't know. It's what happened. I mean, but I feel like I'm a fraud if I just say, oh, I'm been totally clean since I can't, and so it's because, I was still an addict, no matter what the substance, sex, meth, stuff like that, trying to fill a hole that only Christ fills. And and yeah, I just, I know I'm still a work in progress, but I am understanding a lot of greater truths. I am receiving downloads. I've always been gifted, but I do think, and by gifted, I mean, out there on the spectrum, and that's been a huge blessing for me. And now I'm just trying to focus into alignment to what I feel like where I feel like I need to be going. And it's here and now.
Yeah, I think that being able to dial into that intuition and know that you're exactly where you're supposed to be and just being in that awareness is a really huge gift of the spiritual journey. So thank you for sharing about it. And again, like, thank you for your honesty. It's not all butterflies, unicorns, and rainbows after an experience. There's a whole integration process. There's a lot that goes along with the spiritual journey. And for some people, it's rockier than others. And I am really just totally vibing on your vulnerability right now. So thank you so, so much.
You know what? The truth shall set you free. And one thing I learned is as long as I'm honest about every single, or willing to be honest, like, go ahead, check the internet. There's probably me naked with like 15 guys and porno or whatever. I could give a rat because, as long as you expose it and say, hey, that was me, it's not me now. Can't take away her birthday.
Right, exactly. So, what are some of the attributes that you think make you up now? Like, we heard a lot about who you were before. What are some of your core values that you've taken away from your spiritual experiences?
I'm so glad you asked me that. I am in the process with my training. I've been working for this S3 Santa Fe housing initiative, and that's s3santafe.org. I own the website boomersooner.com, which is a God thing. I got that years ago. And what I have there is just simply my book. It's a gateway to the University of Oklahoma. I have them at the top. All I used to, that Boomer Sooner, that's the school I went to. And that's their yell and that's their fight song. And I just sat on that forever. It's a long story, but it's a miracle I got that. Well, now that my book has come out and I've had these experiences, and I've let go of a lot of fear and things of that nature, my true life purpose has always been to be a monk. And so I thought I'll just put that out there because I'll put the different organizations on boomersooner.com along with my book. And I've worked with the Regional Food Bank of Oklahoma with this Backpacks for Kids program for that school, Owasso, Oklahoma, who was in the news with that poor queer kid who died. And so my church was there. It was a queer church, but we were there, called Open Table. And so we did a lot of food service there. We were part of this Backpacks for Kids through the Regional Food Bank, where they would identify kids who needed sustenance, and it's just sickening to me that any kid in this United States would go hungry. So anyway, we would secretly put these little backpacks in their locker, which is a beautiful thing because you don't want these kids to go through any shame, which they would. They would. We know they would. Anyway, yeah, that was the deal. Then the Dallas Bridge, I helped Kamika King. She's a performer and also a great soul. KamikaKing.com. She performs in Dallas, but she was head of the music therapy program at the Dallas Bridge, which is a homeless shelter. And I became part of that and would buy snacks for everyone to try to pull these people in so that they could be healed with her energy and love. So that was important to me. So that's another important thing I want to look, or important group I want to help. And then let's see, Oklahoma. Oh, yeah. I think I mentioned all three because I have major connections in all three states. My mother owns a horse ranch in Oklahoma. I'm from Oklahoma. And then my husband and I are retiring in Santa Fe. Hallelujah. And we have a business in Dallas, Texas, and our home's there too. Eclipses crossed both homes, and I was there for both of them.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm so grateful to share space with you today. I just want to see if there's anything else that you'd like to share to feel more complete about our time together.
Give me a spirit first. Maybe spirit wants me to give a disclaimer that we read things imperfectly through our human spirit, I mean our humanness. Maybe that's and if no, seriously, if somebody doesn't resonate with what I say, I think I'm okay with that now. So it's both you and me. So yeah, maybe that's it. But finally, thank you, teacher, Betty.
Thank
Seriously.
you so much, Beach. We're so grateful to have you be part of our community today, and we'll see you next time.
Okay, peace out.